Hi, it's Michelle from Movement Lesson. I'm here with Kay Ireland, Neurodivergence with Kay. We had a great podcast about a week ago, but this time I wanted to ask her so many questions because she brings so much to the table, and I felt like I did all the talking last time. So, Kay, how are you?
Thank you for that introduction. I look forward to speaking with you today. I love having these real, rich conversations.
Me too. It's wonderful. And you very rarely get to just sit down and get to know somebody. I think we talk about things or topics, but I really like getting to know you. So thank you.
The experiences we discuss on this show are for educational purposes only. Please do not substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Nope.
Before we begin, I respectfully request that if you witness any pauses during this show, please continue watching. I'm composing a spontaneous comment or question. Someone's processing their thoughts, in addition to repeating something that was unintelligible or misunderstood. It is natural discourse, and we can choose not to say anything while this is occurring.
Absolutely. Um, I think it's really important for each one of us to know I am Michelle with Movement Lesson. My son couldn't walk or talk. I did not plan on starting a business or coming up with this, but when they said he would never walk or talk, I just finally just said I'm taking matters into my own hands. And through that, and through years of working with children around the world and adults, um, movement lesson has become, I think, a positive change or introduction to parents so they can get very active in their child's lives and know to understand their movements. And Kay, now you are just starting out doing your own thing with podcasts and stuff. So what's that about?
I am the founder host of Kindly Neurodivergent with Kay. I am the office manager at Silver Speech, in addition to a co-host of the Inside Scoop of Living with Cerebral Palsy. I am a co-author of Living with Cerebral Palsy, led by Kyle Scott. I am a member of the State Student Disability Council as a student of State Community College. I am the communication assistant and a dedicated member of many committees for my therapeutic horseback riding program. As you see, I am a happy, motivated, and active, vibrant female with cerebral palsy and epilepsy who defied the odds. Michelle was episode 12 Alternative Therapy, the discovery of movement lesson from a parent and practitioner on November 12, 2024. If you wanted to know specifically, she discussed how she helps families thrive and see the possibilities through the power of touch.
Yeah, yes, children and adults don't understand that there are certain movements that they just can't experience with their own structure. Structure might be muscle, it might be cognitive, it might be skeletal, it doesn't matter. There's certain movements that they can't perform, and it's not about patterning, it's about learning how to initiate a movement and then stimulating the movement and then enhancing the movement, right? But if you can't initiate a certain movement, then things become difficult. But that being said, I really would like to discuss your version and intake of coming into the world through cerebral palsy, which is great. It's a part of you, and how that empowers you and what you do with it.
Cerebral palsy affects all my motor skills, so I need physical help doing everything. I am a power wheelchair user. However, I can take some independent steps and small transfers like from my bed to my wheelchair or my wheelchair to the couch. I use an adaptive joystick to operate my laptop. In addition to having to be fed, I have a swallowing delay.
these are really, sort of your daily living, but what makes you Kay? What brings out, like, what do you want people to realize, or what would you talk to your younger self about cerebral palsy?
Don't give up and prove everyone wrong in your own unique way. My mom cried when I peed on the potty and drank through a straw for the first time. With the assistance of a paraprofessional and accommodations including a guarded keyboard, adaptive joystick, extra time, and therapies, I was mainstreamed. I participated in a variety of activities including drama club and track. In drama, I was a member of the ensemble, backstage crew, and cast, and a greeter. I went on many field trips, including to Disney for drama with my now family of 5. I was a track star too, running the 100 meters in my walker. Without the dry eye in the auditorium, I physically walked across the stage with the assistance of my paraprofessional at graduation. I received plenty of awards and recognition for Student of the Month, National Honors Society, and the superlative, most school-spirited. My picture even made the local newspaper several times.
That's wonderful. You know, all of your things that you're doing and so forth is just, it's just what everybody really does, but the whole point too of proving yourself really is so important just for everybody. It's not just about being you. It's you need to be, we're all unique, but we need to not only to prove ourselves, but let everybody know we're here, right? And thanks to YouTube too, and all of this and podcasts and all of this, it's amazing how you can get out content which just wasn't there. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have YouTube. Like I have the largest library now working with the human body online for any profession. And but people are like, how, when, where? I'm like, every day I do a video. Every day I just keep putting out content and
Mhm.
and do all of that. But I had to advocate for my child as a parent. How do you advocate for yourself? What do you, what are some struggles, but what have you need to work on?
I have a hard time explaining pain. One time before college, I couldn't get in with my primary pediatrician for an earache. I had to see one of the other doctors less familiar with my history. He was rude, said my ears looked fine, and she can't explain herself. He prescribed me an antibiotic, then finally looked at my chart and saw that I had TMJ. He recommended that I go see my dentist, and yes, it ended up being a TMJ flare.
Yeah, I mean that'll do it. I used to be a history for strep throats when I was a kid, and I can taste and smell infection. I think that's why I caught my son so early. And they would always say, "Oh, it's not strep, we don't know." And by the time I got the antibiotics, I was on the floor. So it's not good when you can't represent yourself. And I think a lot of this go through it in general, but I think people have to take that extra time for an appointment with our kids or for you when normally they're not used to that. They just come in, say hi, and go.
Yeah.
I consider myself left-handed for signing, driving my wheelchair, holding a pen, etc., because it's my stronger, less affected hand. However, I prefer to hold my cup or use a computer joystick on my right side.
I noticed that. I was about to correct it. You're saying you're left and you're using your right hand to work on your computer. But yeah, and we all do that. But again, when you're trying to sign or you need time to communicate, but yet you're driving, people have to realize like, okay, hand busy, can't do both. Just wait a second. Just like us talking. Wait a second.
Not everyone has the same values you have, even if they have the same abilities or challenges as you. I have blocked people with CP on social media.
Oh, I'm good at blocking. I'm good at blocking. You have to. First of all, that's a whole separate, we could have a podcast just on that. That people wake up in the morning to tell you something. One time, someone screenshotted me in all fours with my back end to say I was fat and told me to become a vegetarian. And I'm like, first of all, you know nothing about me. What if I had a condition? And if you don't think I know what's back there, of course I do. But you don't know me or even know that I care. Why am I? And if that was the one comment that made me that I would never even talk to you because I was embarrassed because I'm old, I'm fat, or whatever. We all can go there with an insecurity we might have of ourselves. But life now, the gold of life right now is showing that you have content. You want to share it, put it out there. You've got the platforms. I have content. I put it out there. If you don't want to watch me, I'm okay. But put it out there, publish it. There's so much you can do now in the world you just couldn't do when I was your age. And it's wonderful. So, what are the key things that you would tell parents that they should be ready to expect or about raising a child with CP, but just in probably just in general about raising your children?
Keep advocating for your child. The college search began earlier for me than for my neurotypical peers. It was supposed to be an exciting time like all other rites of passage, but we encountered obstacles. My determined, persistent, warrior mother called the disability services of community colleges, attempting to ask questions and advocate for me. Her contacts didn't always understand our situation. One questioned my mother for calling early on my behalf. Another college wanted my mother to pay tuition for herself because she would be taking up a seat in the classroom as my personal assistant.
That's that's wild that she's going to be taking up a chair, so you've got to pay double. Um, you do have to advocate, especially too, or like the sickness and getting it in. Now, as a parent, we've got to go to the pediatrician. That was sort of a dead end. Now we have to go to a dentist, trying to get the solutions for our munchkins. And so, what might be just a trip to, again, one doctor for somebody, for like me, I'm going to five doctors because now the pulmonologist has to talk to the immunologist, has to talk to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, has to talk to that. And so what about with school or getting tasks done that is different or that you need to have done?
Even though I am cognitive, there's still advocacy.
There is will always be advocacy. It will be advocacy, again, this is a cerebral palsy thing, but it's also just a human right thing that you are that there's opportunities out there and they're available, opportunities for help, which is a doctor, opportunities for success, which might be a new job, or I love hearing about your writing and things like that and your awards and notoriety, which hopefully we're going to get into here. There's many things, but again, you're going to say it and I'm going to say it. It's finding that way to encourage your child, how to keep them engaged versus going in, because we all can go into the give up stage.
Keep encouraging your child. Any task is complex. No matter how small, you break it down into 100 different parts and steps, and figure out each one to give you success. Additionally, remember that we are always exploring and wanting to achieve independence, no matter what we are doing or whatever environment we are in.
Right. But you still need help though, right? Yeah, with lots of things.
An example of this is I have made so much progress naturally even though I use a wheelchair. I used to need my parents' help to do homework every night, but as the material got more involved, it's easier for me to do it independently rather than explaining it to someone except for math.
Yeah, well, I need help with math too.
Math is my favorite subject. I took pre-calculus.
Wow. Hmm.
All with sign language.
Sign language is wonderful. The only gap which it should be filled more today is a lot of people don't know sign language. So even though you might be fluent in sign language, you can't express yourself as well as you could. Your world is limited or can be limited, I should say.
And we made up our own signs.
Oh yeah, that's really important. We can have a whole podcast just on that. It is really important, especially too when you're getting younger kids to do certain things. They don't have the fine motor skills, whatever, to do those combinations of like something like walking and that where it's very acceptable to have a language in between you. But what else did the adaptations too did you do for like school and stuff? How do you manage more successfully?
For 3 years, I attended one in-person course twice a week with my mother. We had to remember all my regular supplies to pack in all my special equipment and not to underestimate the hassle of inclement weather. I have been taking a combination of asynchronous and synchronous online classes since. These options allow me to access the curriculum more conveniently, in the comfort of my own home, while my mother does what she needs to, checking on me periodically.
That
I
works.
prefer to take no more than 2 courses each semester. It takes me longer to write an assignment as I have to figure out what I want to say and how I want to say it. Did I forget to mention the simple fact that my words per minute are labored due to my fine motor skills? I also fatigue easily and need breaks. With that being said, I am still held to the same standards that higher education demands. Absolutely no extensions are availed.
No, that really is something, and a lot of people were surprised. I didn't have my son in college under special services, which is the sales. I don't know if that sales is through the country or just at ASU, but honestly, it didn't provide him much other than sort of letting the teachers know that my son had certain special circumstances.
I still submit my letter for extension on tests.
It's got to be easier, and I really appreciate too that again you're showing that the thoughts are there, but you still have to get it through your communication device. Can you explain how you came up with a good solution for you right now?
It may take a while to find the right method or option. The speech therapist introduced sign language to jumpstart my expressive communication. It was determined that finger spelling was easier physically for me and more universal to teach others. I later learned how to communicate with the world through an augmentative and alternative communication device. To match me with a reliable voice, I had an AAC evaluation. This assessment helped my team determine methods, devices, techniques, symbols, and/or strategies to represent and/or augment my spoken and/or written language. Initially, I had a communication device called Dynavox. It had pre-programmed grids filled with picture vocabulary, buttons to formulate sentences, and a keyboard with word prediction. While it taught me the value of technology, voice-activated communication, and more diversity in my vocabulary, I experienced a lot of intense feelings towards my big, bulky, and expensive Dynavox. My biggest complaint was that it constantly kept freezing, especially when I had something important to say. Many repairs were necessary for this dinosaur, and let's not underestimate the stress. In high school, it was suggested that I bring in my 9.4-inch iPad and use the communication application called Proloquo to go. I prefer not to utilize the pre-programmed grids that are automatically provided on Proloquo to go. It is too limiting and reminds me of the dinosaur I had. However, I take advantage of pre-programming my thoughts for any presentations, interviews, and/or conversations I participate in. After graduation, I had another AAC evaluation where I switched to the device that I still have now, a 12.9-inch iPad Pro.
I'm just going to take a quick second and just explain to parents on this. When you're working with what's called in the field an AuCom device, you have to make sure it is set up originally to help your child. What is this, right? Like I just had a child in from Dallas and he happened to be Hindi. That was his religious base. On his program is Cantor, Rabbi, and Kosher. Now, this child will never use these types of symbols in his life, right? It's not it's just apples and oranges, or even the fact that I said I wanted his machine wiped down to nothing for eating, self-care, and for pain. Once he learns the device, and she goes, well, he knows what an alligator is. And she went to run to get me the toy for him to go alligator because he knew it was an alligator. I said, unless there's an alligator in your living room, I know he's smart enough to know what an alligator is. But for him to be learning a device and be going through, push the button, where's the horse, push the button, unless these are words that are in his life at this moment, I don't want them there. Now, later on, if you want to write a stories about amphibians and you need alligators and fish, then put them on the device. But to just learn the device, and I think they make kids like they're learning an encyclopedia. It's too much. So sorry, I know I'm a little off topic there, so I appreciate you listening to me.
Or too basic.
Right. Yeah, it's not about like see the cat and dog. You have a great imagination. The device should suit you and who you are. And I think that's where the advocate, the parents, the child, or the person using the device and your program all have to be very organized in this for your success, not for their success. You know, a lot of therapies, guys, the goals are for their success. This isn't about the success for your child. But again, well, some of the things that you work with cerebral palsy are muscle issues. Can you explain any complications you had with that or frustrations?
In 2016, my left leg brace kept breaking, and I started getting blisters repeatedly. We went to the orthotist, and a physiatrist referral was made. My high muscle tone was making them break. The physiatrist, of course, offered the CP treatments that I can't imagine doing. So the orthotist made me a new brace with an extra smaller piece to put on before I put my left brace on. For people who are unfamiliar with the CP treatments, some people have a backbone pump in their stomach that has medication in it or get Botox injections and have to go under every so often for either of these. Additionally, there are orthopedic surgeries that can help with spasticity, tendon lengthening, and other aspects of the body.
Yeah, one of the I'm not saying it does it with all because again, this is not medical advice, but I do see a lot of scoliosis happening because the baclofen pump. The baclofen pump is actually like the size of a hockey puck. It's about this big by about this round, and it usually goes into the lower white quadrant under the ribs. So you'll start to see that curvature around the spine because again, if you're in your chair, the tendency of your ribs or your pelvis hitting the pump is just, that has nothing to do with the medication part, but baclofen is used for muscle spasticity and so is Botox.
Another interesting thing that I learned in the appointment is that some people opt to be on medication for startle reflex.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't realize that you're coming into the doctor's office, you're already on guard, your startle reflex is going to be here that they're evaluating versus you being just at like us hanging out. You know what I mean? Like now you're not going to be in startle reflex territory. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but they're evaluating you in a very uncomfortable or can be uncomfortable, an uncommon situation. So they're giving you medication for the stress kid at the doctor versus the kid that's just home watching Netflix with mom and dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then also too, you have sometimes like circulatory issues and or hormone issues.
I was referred to a hematologist for iron deficiency anemia and have done infusions. It has worked but is a temporary fix. I can't take oral iron due to dysphagia, and it can cause constipation. After infusion, blood work is 7-8 weeks out, then another 3 months, and so forth depending on the results. At the second check, I needed another infusion, which worked. My next check will be in January. The last few years, we have been questioning if I am tighter. I wonder if it could be from low iron.
Yes, it can be, and I started videos for you on that because we are meant to have certain weights in our body, sugar weights. So that's why diabetes is bad because as sugar goes up, your blood gets heavier, right? Iron is a very heavy element. And so when it goes, it fluctuates, right? You actually just in lying down because your body's used to, let's say, this type of iron. And then if it goes too high, which might happen after the transfusion, your body's trying to move this kind of weight around. And then if it goes too low, then you're going after different. So it will play with different muscle parts. And so I'm experimenting with you in lying down videos to see if we can just get you to be more comfortable again and strengthen your weight transfer and lying down to build you up into a sitting position to see if that helps with the muscles.
Oh,
You're welcome. Um, and again, this is what I'm trying to offer you. I know you can do things for yourself. How is that, again, help you with your independence and what you're seeking out for yourself?
Just exploration into how different people feel.
Not only how people feel, but the movement comes first. If you are having anybody wants to get in and out of a situation, period, the end. I don't care if it's going to a test, I don't care if it's going to a funeral. The brain needs to know, can I get in a situation and out of it? And so this is really important in with movement. Like again, like just even like your wheelchair, can you talk about just having just different ways of transporting?
oh, yeah, yeah, man. Mm, mm,
It wasn't a switch. I remember people saying that I took off with my first power wheelchair.
Absolutely. Vroom vroom. It's people want
bye.
independence. Yeah. See ya. What are some of the things you want to achieve in life? I mean, I know life's just beginning for you, but do you have some big goals ahead of you?
In May, I'm going to participate in my second horse show.
Cool.
At 3 years old, I began therapeutic riding at a local professional association of therapeutic horsemanship certified center. Therapeutic riding is an activity that improves physical strength, facilitates sensory integration, and promotes emotional well-being through the use of the horse's movements combined with simple exercises and games. When I started riding, I needed the help of a leader and two sidewalkers, one of whom was an occupational therapist assisting me with my poor head-neck control and weak core strength. After 13 years, I transitioned to the elite discipline of paradressage. It is when the horse and rider perform a test in a 20-meter by 60-meter arena that is ridden from memory and follows a prescribed pattern of movements. Besides giving me the therapeutic benefits of riding, this challenges me to learn dressage vocabulary and patterns as well as autonomy as I control an equine on my own off-lead.
That's so cool.
When this amazing program turned 40 years old, we celebrated with a horse show. It was my first opportunity to officially ride the paradressage test in front of a judge. At that event, I was surprised by my sister's dance team. I am always on the sidelines watching them, so instead, I was the sports star of the show. A reporter interviewed us. I even received the Founders Award.
That's amazing. And it's nice when family just, it's all about combined forces.
Publish an autobiography.
Well, that you can do. I've got 8 books published, but I can certainly teach you some tricks. It's so much easier today that you can do it and put it up on Amazon. And by all means, I'll give you some tricks to write faster, or I should say more efficiently. Getting the organization or the outline sometimes is the hardest thing a writer can do.
One thing that I struggled with and have to revisit, due to being physically uncomfortable, is the gynecologist. It has nothing to do with the provider. I know that other patients go under for this, but I can't imagine doing that. I go through so many other exams, tests, procedures, and so forth that my neurotypical peers don't. Some people might not like the neurotypical comparison, but that's how I feel.
Oh, it's important. It is so important, but all of our kids go through it. My son once just said, "I just want to be normal," right? I said, "Okay." Because again, he did movement lesson and all that. I said, "No karate." Well, I want to do karate. Well, okay, only 1% of the population does karate, so there's no more karate. And there goes the gifted program, so that'll be a lot easier. I started going down the list, and there goes Boy Scouts, and then he's like, "Okay, okay, I get it, I get it. Okay, I'm stop. I won't," and also too, I agree with you. I tell people, if you think you're having a bad day, I've got some phone numbers for you. It doesn't matter who we are. You have a right to get up and smile and say, "I'm going to do this," no matter what anybody else thinks of what you can and can't do. Or you can take the grump road and say, "Oh, I can't," and this and that. And I get it. We all have our bad days, but it's how we really do that, or just again help set your goals. What helps you?
Just different experiences. For example, I have videos of me independently steering as early as 2011, as one day they surprisingly took me off lead. However, I didn't start consistently until a few years ago when I started learning how to communicate using my seat and legs until I started paradressage in 2017. We have also modified my tack to allow me to steer more effectively.
And again, that's great. That's why your mom is such a warrior, your parents, to see how your learning styles are, not only what you're capable of, but where you can go.
And my whole team.
Yeah, your whole team. It is. It really is. And you're allowed a second opinion and a third opinion and your own opinion. And sometimes people aren't ready for all of that, but like you said, you come with the team, whereas most people barely have themselves. And sometimes that can be great, and other times that's a lot of hoops you have to go through. Like, what is one of the downsides of the worst evaluation you ever received? Right?
In eighth grade, I had an augmented and alternative communication observation in my language arts classroom. The evaluators recommended a device with only pictures on it, and I opted out of their recommendation.
Yeah, can you imagine going into high school with pictures? Although I think they have to use that with like places like McDonald's, so that's where they're getting it from. But you're not there. Um, if you could talk to that person, or for them to, or for someone to just learn from the experience, what would you tell them?
It still doesn't make sense to me that you recommended a picture-only device for someone who is mainstream and just needed a reliable device. How would you feel if I told you that same recommendation as an almost freshman in high school?
Right. We use different ways to communicate, but we're still communicating. But when they're most of their clients are either younger, like evaluating a fourth grader maybe, or a 4-year old versus someone going into high school. But people have to really step back, and they're not evaluating someone with CB or someone that is ataxia or can't speak. They're evaluating K, and that's what is has to go into the picture first. I appreciate that you're talking about CP. I don't talk about CP, I talk about K, or I might have to use those terms to help someone visualize, but that's not how I work.
Especially since I was honors.
It doesn't matter if you're honors, they still need to give you something to work up to. Like when I tell parents when their child is just starting out, and like say they're self-contained or not, like they wanted they told my son he was mentally retarded, which was a diagnosis back then. It's cognitive impairment, but and they wanted to put him in full lockdown and ship him out. And I went to visit the school, and I got introduced. Well, if I had an autistic kid, this is where he'd be going. And I'm like, I don't have an autistic kid. My son is Graham. He happens to have autism, but I don't look at him as my autistic kid. That's not, I why? I mean, that doesn't define him. It's like saying I have blue eyes. It's a characteristics he might have, but that's not who he is,
Mm.
right?
Look at the whole picture.
Right. Look at the whole picture. That's for everybody, and that's why you're neurodivergent. It's looking at the whole picture. Speaking of, I'd love to talk to you again and talking about, really being college and entering the workforce. Because my son's he's going to about to get his first job. He's going to be graduating college and we've never worked before. But love to continue a conversation with you if you'd like. But I can't thank you enough for being with me.
Mm. Mm.
Is very important.
It is.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me on.
You're more than welcome. But guys, always remember, every day is important. It doesn't matter who you are, make the most out of it. That's what you should have gotten from this podcast. It's amazing.
Mm.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being with you. And hopefully, I'll see you in a little bit, but enjoy your holidays.